People saying anything just in order to win. People finding out what their deepest convictions are by checking what the polls are. Changing their views overnight. Hey, what happened to truth? What happened to justice? What happened to integrity, honesty, decency? What happened to generosity? What happened to humility and fallibility? I don't mind telling folk I got gangster and thug in me because I do.
Now, finally, I definitely didn't expect this to happen. But when Mr. Dr. Cornel West has been on the road. A couple of days ago, he was on the Breakfast Club, and I was like, that's beautiful. It is about time. The Breakfast Club is probably one of the most heard radio stations throughout Black culture. You know what I'm saying? So when Dr. West is speaking on there, people are listening. And then today, he did an interview with one of my favorite people. I may not agree with him on every single thing, but he still is an amazing person, an amazing thinker, Mr. Stephen A. Smith. Not Stephen A. Smith, Smith, okay? He did an interview with him, and before I even clicked on the video, I knew Stephen A. Smith was going to ask questions. He wasn't going to sugarcoat nothing. He wasn't going to just, throw some softballs and just be like, okay, here you go. Here's an easy layup. Like, no. Mr. Stephen A. Smith is going to ask the questions that he wants to ask. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I love about Mr. Stephen A. Smith, okay? Is, he just tells you like it is. You see what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and it's like a 48-minute clip. I think I got 4 clips here for you. Let's go ahead and look at some of these clips. Of course, if you want to look at the entire interview without me interrupting, go ahead, subscribe to Mr. Stephen A. Smith. Go ahead, watch the video, then come back. Make sure you come back, and we're going to have this conversation.
Milquetoast, mendacity, levels of corruption, and people just lying. Both parties, both tied to big money, both tied to a next election, and none of them are speaking to the need of those sly stone called everyday people, of poor and working people. 63% of our fellow citizens living from paycheck to paycheck every month, man.
I'm wondering in all sincerity, why now? Because I know it's been bad, but there's a level of hopelessness that I think has infiltrated politics in such a way that I've never seen in my lifetime. I'm 55 years of age. I've never seen it like this. Even when we saw people like yourself, obviously you were born before me, and because of that, you were living in the midst of the civil rights era. You saw unfairness, you saw degradation, you saw a lot of heinous and insidious things taking place in our country. But for some reason, no matter what trials and tribulations this nation or a segment of our populace was enduring, Dr. West, there was always hope. I look at the divide right now, and truth doesn't matter. It's what I want. Whatever it is that I want, that's all that matters. There's no compromise. Compromise is not a priority. Truth is not a priority. And that begs the question, why run now when hopelessness seems to have pervaded the proverbial proceedings?
Oh, I think that's a powerful reason for running, because keep in mind, I'm running for truth and justice. I mean, the presidency happens to be just a vehicle and a vessel for it. But right when the moment is at its dimmest and grimmest is the time when you have to try to cast your light in the form of your witness and your work. And in the same way to you in your own context, you got to bear witness. You got to cast your light. And most importantly, be yourself and be true to those who love you. All the love poured into you, all the love poured into me, all the integrity poured into me by Irene and Clifton West, Shiloh Baptist West, Black Panther Party, all of my different friends. And I have friends that come from different ideological and political perspectives. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't look for political agreement. I think of a brother like James Brown. You know, James Brown, one of the greatest journalists of our day.
That's right. Yes, I do. I know him personally. He's a mentor and a friend. He's one of the great human beings you'll ever meet on this earth.
That's precisely it. You know, he was my roommate at Harvard.
Wow.
And I go to him both for prayer, advice, insight. We don't begin by talking about politics. We begin by talking about our family. His mother was a gem and a jewel, Mrs. Brown, just beyond language, just like my mother. But you see, those are the kind of relationships that's gone into shaping one. Mm-hmm. And when you have that kind of blessing or those kinds of blessings in your life, then by the time you get into politics and you see what you see in politics, hatred, greed, revenge, manipulation, people saying anything just in order to win, people finding out what their deepest convictions are by checking what the polls are, changing their views overnight. Hey, what happened to truth? What happened to justice? What happened to integrity, honesty, decency? What happened to generosity? What happened to humility and fallibility? I don't mind telling folk I got gangster and thug in me because I do, but I'm trying to be better. I don't mind telling folk I don't have the full truth because I want to learn and listen. I'm a jazz man, just like this brother right here, Coltrane. Right. You learn how to learn, you learn how to listen, you learn how to allow others to raise their voices, but most importantly, brother, you learn how to take a stand. You're not spineless. You're not just
whoa. Hold on. If you guys, like I say, want to hear the entire thing, because we all know Mr. Dr. West can speak. He can speak, and he can speak. Okay. But one thing I love that, you know, if you missed his answer, because you really got to pay attention. In order to change the atmosphere that Mr. Stephen A. Smith was saying that he kind of notices throughout the country, the division, it starts with yourself. If you can't love yourself and then love your neighbor and then love your community, then why are we voting people into office who don't demonstrate that? You know what I'm saying? You're going to get these people in office who's only going to demonstrate what they know. Greed, worried about self. And that's not good for a country. That's good for them making money, but not our country. And, you know, we already know Mr. Dr. Cornel West can present that. And, you know, I think, you know, if he was to step in that office, man, it'll be a very unique presidency in all lifetime. You know what I'm saying? No one's going to be like a Mr. Dr. Cornel West. So
compass. And that's all I'm trying to bring.
But Dr. West, hold on for a second. Because let me play the advocate here, and I don't want to use the devil's advocate, but I think it's appropriate here. There are some devils in leadership positions in this world. I mean, people who have no love, no soul, no spirit. They don't give a damn. And you do have folks in America, some of us, that believe in peace through strength, that if you go to them and you try to appeal to their better nature, it's non-existent and you'll get run over. What do you say to people who would listen to Dr. West and say, sir, that's very ideal, that's altruistic, that's really, really nice, but there's no way on earth that that's going to work if you are the leader of the free world? What do you say to that?
Well, I say that they're certainly right about human wretchedness. As a Christian, you know I'm tied to a thick doctrine of sin in terms of our fallenness and our finitude. But we're not just wretched, but also wonderful in the sense that we can change. We're wonderful in the sense that we can be transformed. We can be made better. It could be divine gifts of grace. It could be through education. It could be through love. It could be through friendship. There's various ways that it could be through listening to a love supreme. The right kind of music and the art can actually tame your soul and transform how you view the world. So the wretchedness and the wonderfulness go hand in hand. But I will not and ever will never forever succumb to a wholesale pessimism. Retail pessimism is fine. But wholesale pessimism, wholesale fatalism, wholesale cynicism, Brother West, what you're talking about is just naive. Now, I come from the legacy of Martin King and Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Baker. Were they naive? Well, yes and no. They were naive in thinking that the world could change, but they were realistic enough to know they had to sacrifice and do something in order to change it, and they changed it. Rabbi Heschel did the same thing. Edward Said, the same thing. Grace Lee Boggs. There's a whole cloud of witnesses, and it comes from all different cultures, and Chief Joseph from a Native American tradition and so forth.
Let's get back to President Joe Biden when he was.
All right. So once again, it is important to know that there are standards, okay? And I know when it comes to political campaigns and political parties, it's always us versus them. And of course, you know, that brings its own baggage of just hatred and misinformation and you know, from both parties. What I do understand from Cornel West, and you know, I kind of agree with Stephen A. Smith when it comes to some situations you have to switch your attitude. You know what I'm saying? Not everything can be with, you know, a chill, relaxed tone. You know what I'm saying? Some things you're going to have to turn up the heat. You know what I'm saying? Like when you raising kids, you know, when they act out of line or they do something crazy, hey, daddy with the belt is coming. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to find that balance. But one thing I think what Dr. Cornel West was trying to deliver was he doesn't want to be morally in the pits with everybody else who's pessimistic and just has a really skewed perspective on everything. And who really wants to live like that? Just negative to everything, and just this you know unpleasant president. Like what kind of ruler is that? You know, well, not a ruler, a president is that. You know what I'm saying? So I think what he's trying to say is, you know, or at least from what I got from it was, he wants to set the standard high, and he's not going to fall down to here just to please everybody who's stuck down here. That's not productive. That's not going to get anything done. So, you know, I kind of understand that, but you know, Stephen A. Smith is right. Like a lot of people want to hear the militant side of a situation, and sometimes whatever the situation is, whatever the topic is, sometimes you're gonna have to bring that out. So, you know, I would like to see that side of Cornel West, you know, to see if he can turn up the heat like that. You know what I'm saying?
Commentators, pundits on the right that you feel that way about, that we see on TV, that you think that when we're looking at them, we should say, hey, they've got a love for their people. They just think a little bit differently than somebody like yourself?
Oh, that's a beautiful question, brother. I've never been asked that question before. Who would be some of the right-wing folk who actually have a...
I asked that because I saw you again. I saw you talking to Candace.
Okay, first off, I've never seen Cornel West kind of not speechless, but like really thinking. Like he's really, normally he has like a quick response that kind of leads into another response and leads into another, but he's really like he's really trying to figure this out. Like that to me is crazy. But that means something, though.
Right-wing folk who actually have a...
I asked that because I saw you again. I saw you talking to Candace Owens. So I'm thinking about...
Absolutely. I believe in being in dialogue with everybody.
Right.
I really do. And they're human beings. And I think I can learn from everybody, no matter how wrong I think they are.
Right.
But the pundits on television...
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is, man, it's hard to get independently minded brothers and sisters of any color like yourself, because the companies tend to be able to make more money by sensationalizing the conflict rather than trying to engage in mature discussion. So it's hard to keep track of some of the right-wing brothers on television or right-wing sisters on TV. I know them in private life, but not that many on television.
Got you. I tell you something right now.
Hey, Oh wait, hold on. Let's hear this.
And I
first.
appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much. I'm not the aficionados that most people are, but I know this much. I'm even-handed. I'm fair-minded, and I say what I feel, and I don't fall along party lines. If I believe something, but if you correct me because your knowledge is superior and you bringing me facts, I'm like, yeah, that's a damn good point. I'm gonna sit up there and I'm gonna think about that. I'm gonna go in. But I'm proud of, especially on the left, the Dr. Michael Eric Dyson's, yourself, Roland Martin. I give a lot of love to. You know, Joe Madison on Sirius XM, Karen Hunt on Sirius XM, people like that I have profound respect for, and I see what they're doing. Folks on the right, Sean Hannity, I've known for years. I think he's
boo, Sean Hannity. But that's an interesting answer, and it's something that we, especially as Black folks, we already kind of alluded to that. We kind of already understand a lot of Black folks who are on the Republican train is just on there for the gravy. They on that gravy train just for the simply fact that they're using their skin color. Okay, they melatonin just for profit. That's it. And it's hard to have an honest, genuine, good faith conversation with individuals whose profit, whose money is based on rhetoric, talking points. It's hard to have a conversation with people like that. And trust me, I've had a lot of conversations with people like that. So it's like, hey, Mr. West couldn't even name not one person. That means something.
Oh, do you know what it would be like to have
last
spirit in politics?
Yeah.
Oh,
last couple of questions. A few years ago, we had a Black man in the presidency from 2008 to 2016 named Barack Obama. Black community loved him. A lot of people were very, very fond of him, even though there were some things he couldn't get accomplished. We didn't view it as his fault. We know he tried. And we understand the political apparatus that exists on Capitol Hill and the kind of roadblocks and impediments that they can provide to derail your aspirations and ultimately your success. You walked away feeling what about his presidency as a Black man in that office, considering the fact that you would be a Black man in the office if you were to win?
Well, as you know, I was a critical supporter of my brother. Each time he ran, especially the first time, did over 65 events for free and would do it again. But it was twofold. The symbolic breakthrough was extraordinary. Just the idea of having a brilliant Black man and a magnificent Black family in a White House that was built by enslaved Africans under coercive conditions is something that we can never, ever take away from Brother Barack. But I was also deeply disappointed because I would argue, even with my Black brothers and sisters, that there were certain things he could have done that he didn't do. He didn't have to bail out Wall Street. We know Wall Street crimes took place of insider trading and market manipulation and predatory lending and fraudulent activity. He let them off the hook. He and Eric Holder. Eric comes out of Wall Street himself. He let them off the hook. He met with them and said, I stand between you and the pitchforks, but I will protect you. I don't believe a president, especially a Black president, needs to say that to Wall Street. You need to say that to Main Street. So the homeowners were the ones that had to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. Same is true with drones. You know, George Bush dropped 46 drones and killed innocent people. Barack Obama dropped 549 and killed innocent people. Those are wrong. They had Tuesday meetings at night deciding who to kill. And too often it was innocent folk fighting terrorism. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, so we're at war with combatants. That's a separate thing. Innocent people are being killed. And they lied about it, denied it, and then later on it's true. So that if you're going to be president, no matter what color, and you're going to be head of the empire, either tell people the truth about various kinds of things you're doing, and there are certain things you can choose. He didn't choose to hit mass incarceration head on. The new Jim Crow. We got a Black president, and you're not dealing with the new Jim Crow. That's why you got a Black Lives Matter movement under a Black president. Because the younger generation said, wait a minute, these police are doing us in, and we got Black president. We got Black attorney general. We got Black Homeland Security. Black faces in high places doesn't always translate into Black empowerment of poor and working people. We had to put bring critique to bear. And that's exactly what I did during the Obama administration. Remember Tavis Smiley and I having poverty tours.
Yes.
I want him to talk about poverty. I want to talk about mass incarceration. We got a black president. Let's show up at the jails and say what's wrong and give your arguments as to why you want to preserve this and do away with this, reform this.
Right. Well, I did.
All right. So what did he say that was incorrect? I don't know. It's being the first black president, you're not going to get everything correct. Everything you do is going to be under a magnifying glass, is going to go down in history as the first black president. So you're going to take a lot more hits being the front runner. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely give a lot of grace in a lot of parlays. I don't know if that's the correct term for that. For Barack. But when it comes to some of the things that being a black man in America, being the first black president, you have to have a separate list on things you need to accomplish for the black community. Because one, historically proven, when you help black folks, you help everybody. There was never any policies or anything that only helped black people, like only helped them. Only black people. Nothing. You can't point to nothing in history that only ever helped black people. It always helped black people and everybody else. Talk about affirmative action that helped women a whole bunch. Talk about civil rights that helped disability people, women, voting rights and everything. It helped everybody. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of have to have a list on how to help the black community, being the first black president, and knowing that the main reason why you even won was because black people who never voted for before came out to vote. The highest turnout of black folks was when Obama ran. You see what I'm saying? So I do understand what Dr. Cornel West is saying, but when it comes to the drones and killing innocent people, there's no excuse for that. There's not an excuse for that. So, but once again, it's a great interview. And when it came to answering these questions, and like I said, it's a 48-minute video. They discussed a lot, but I think this is really some of the highlights of the video. But I'm still waiting for someone to ask Cornel West, like, hey, what is your top 5 policies that you want to implement? And what are some policies you want to take out, you want to remove? What is some institutions you want to reform? Like, I want to know kind of some of the details. You know what I'm saying? I'm the kind of guy that wants to know the details. So once again, an amazing interview by Dr. Cornel West. He's staying true to himself, and that's what makes him unique. Like he said, he's not going to change his opinion based off of polls. He already has his convictions. He's already met with the people and lived in that community, so he knows what the people need, not what the people want. The people want, hatred and fighting. He knows what the people needs. You know what I'm saying? So once again, Dr. Cornel West did an amazing job. And like always, if you think he sucked, if you think that he's just some sort of fraud and he is just doing this just for the bag, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. And like always, let's have that conversation.